I live in a small, medium-sized city, around 55,000 people. Although it is known for having a very high crime rate, one that is growing rapidly, rape, murder, and other attacks that aren't unusual anymore. So thusly, I rarely adventure out alone after dark. Being a woman at 5'4" and 100 pounds, but I did, at least once, otherwise I would have nothing to tell you. One summer eve, about 5 years ago, my mother and husband were going to have a small garden party and invited their children as well. I am the youngest out of the three, for my mother, with two older brothers. Her husband has two boys, both older than me, and I should also tell you that my mom's husband used to be in the military and has been for about 20 years. One of my brothers had also gone into the army, 2 missions abroad, and when he got back, he just went back to educate and become a police officer. Let's just say I never was worried or scared about anything with them. Since I don't live that far away from my mom's place, around 2 kilometers or so, I decided to walk that evening instead of taking the bus. It was around 8 p.m., and since it was summer, it was bright outside. I usually take the busy roads when I walk, so that if something happened to me, chances would be that someone saw me. I did so this time as well. About half a kilometer or kilometer into my walk, I saw 5 guys walking towards me on the road. They were really loud and appeared to be quite drunk. Most likely it was nothing. They were walking their way and I was walking mine. However, in the best of times, I am highly paranoid, so instead of walking past them, I turned into a street. This street took me into a residential area with a lot of houses. Lots of houses means nothing could happen to me. Lots of houses and lots of people, so you'd be able to hear me scream, right? I quickened my pace and glanced behind me. They had turned into the street as well. My logical me were trying to was trying to calm my heartbeat. Maybe one of them lived in here somewhere. Maybe they were meeting up with someone. Still, I hurried even more and started taking new side streets. Left, right, left again. They were still following me. Now quicker than before, they noticed me and yelled at me. "Hey, pretty, come over here." "Yeah, we're heading to a party. Come with us." Me trying to hurry up without giving them an answer would be enough for most people to get the hint. Not these guys, though. With one hand, I grabbed my keychain and put it in between my fingers like my mom's husband had told me. I might have been small and weak, but one punch with those keys could at least do some damage. With my other hand, I grabbed my phone and dialed up my mom. She answered and asked if I was on my way. When I told her what was going on, she quickly asked where I was. I told her, and I heard her repeat it to someone at the side. Then, "My husband and your brother are on the way. Keep walking and stay on the line with me." It wasn't that far from our house, and my brother was a really fast sprinter, so I knew they would be coming soon. I answered my mother in a loud voice. "Oh, so I'm getting a military escort home?" Trying my best to get the guys behind me to hear me and turn around. It didn't work. I heard them say to each other and laugh loudly, and one guy saying, "Nice try, sweetheart," as they started walking faster. I was almost running at this point. When I saw my brother and my mom's husband sprinting towards me, I could have cried of relief. The guys behind me then saw as well and ran the other way as fast as they could. All laughter gone from their faces, I hugged my brother tightly and thanked them both for coming so fast. My brother was still swearing, though. Since those guys hadn't actually done anything, there was no excuse for him to run after them. But I do believe that they had touched me in any way. Both of my military and shining armor would have made sure they wouldn't stalk anyone for a long time after this event. I was never allowed to walk home alone, ever again. So, drunk, rude, potential rapist guys, how about we never meet again? This incident happened around 10 years ago when I was 13 or 14 years old. It was usually warm for my cold country, and my best friend and I, little rebels that we were, would lie to our parents about the time school ends and sit around the school grounds gossiping and smoking cigarettes. Since we were idiot teenagers, we thought it was very cool to wear lots of makeup and heels in order to appear older, important later on. That day it was around 4 or 5 p.m., and we were sitting around as usual. Even though we were busy chatting, we noticed a strange man enter the school gate. He was tall, skinny, early or mid-20s, and nerdy looking. The guy was carrying a single red rose, and was quietly made fun of him as he entered the building. We continued with our business until the man exited the building. Rose still in hand, came over to us. He asked if we knew some girl who he claimed was his girlfriend. We said no, and we haven't heard of a girl, which was strange in retrospect because we made it our business to know everyone and everything in our school. The man did not walk away. He sat down on the bench next to us and started asking more questions. What we were doing here alone so late, what did we do for fun? Were we 18 yet? We said yes, like the idiots we are. We started feeling less and less comfortable around him. He seemed a little off or unstable, like he could pounce at any second. He was especially fixated on my friend, which made sense because she was a very tall, slim, and beautiful. So, after exchanging scared looks with her, we excused ourselves and left. While walking away from him, my friend noticed that he also got up and started walking forward, following us, which scared us a lot. The feeling that is too often described here, the feeling of immediate danger, flooded my body, and we decided to hide. Now the best move would have been to either go into the main building, where there was a security guard at the reception desk, or leave the grounds and walk into a busy street. It would have been fine, but no, we went into an additional building. The building was a part of the original school building, and nothing there except a staircase about 4 floors high and a two-locked classroom. As soon as we went in, we knew it was a mistake, and we climbed a few steps and wanted to turn around and run. But we heard the door open and close. The man was inside, and he was quiet. Surely he didn't want to talk anymore. It was just a bit higher on the stairs, so I ran up, leaving my friend below. Not my proudest moment. I was scared out of my mind and worried about my friend. Stopped for a second at the top of the stairs to gather my thoughts. Then I turned around, sounds of a struggle and my friend's muffled scream. I panicked. The man was taller and heavier than me. We were in an isolated building with no one there, and I had nothing that I could use as a weapon. But I had to do something. That's why I partly blacked out. I remember screaming and running and hitting at my friend's scared expression. The man ran away. We left the building thinking he may be outside waiting, but he wasn't. He went into the main building, staying close to the security desk. My friend told me what happened. Apparently I went crazy, and I ran down the stairs, my heel swinging my heavy book bag over my head, screaming insults no one's ever heard before at him. I beat the man violently over the head and in his face with the bag. My friend said I had an angry, out-of-control, animalistic expression on my face. We recovered a bit and left home. We never called our parents or the police. No one knew about the story until recently. I'm not sure why we never reported the rapist bastard. Maybe because we were afraid it was our fault for hanging out late, wearing makeup and smoking. If I had the sense I do now, I would report him to make sure that he didn't hurt anyone ever again, and I would not feel guilty because some perv thought we were 18, so naturally it was okay to rape us. So, creepy 20-something man who thinks it's okay to roam school grounds scouting for potential assault targets. Screw you. I wish I would have hit you harder.
So I live in an apartment, more like a co-op, with 4 people during my 3rd year of college. Sure, while walking from clubs back to our dorms, or vice versa, we had fun run-ins, and I lived in that city for about 3 years by that point, but I never thought anything of the strange locals. I could handle myself, and I felt comfortable since I lived with a friend and 2 other strangers in this co-op, all of which my roommate and I got along with. We had my roommate's cousin over for a week, and she was staying with us and sleeping at our place. My classes were scattered throughout the day, but usually by 8 p.m. they were finished and I could relax. Our guest decided to cook us dinner every night as a thank you for letting her stay in our cramped shared quarters. Mind you, our apartment is on the floor level of a city known for retro game imitations, and it doesn't have the best reputation in the crime department, but I never thought much of it. She notices one night, maybe her second night there, that some dude keeps staring out at her apartment as soon as the night/evening falls. She said she studied him because every night around 6 p.m., being winter, he'd light up a cigarette and just stroll over to our apartment, stand right in front of our window, and watch. I lived at the front of the apartment on the ground floor, so I faced the street and sidewalks. My room was about 10 to 15 feet from the sidewalk, so it wasn't right there, but still. And then one night, I came home early from classes and saw him just standing there, lighting up and watching me. And then my roommate and I recall seeing him follow us a week or so prior, but it's the only incident we can recall. We recognized his habits of lighting up, tilting his head down, and puffing away, which he did when he followed us when we took a walk. Now, my roommate's cousin said for the week she was there, he was watching us ritually, and he'd even leave, maybe for bathroom breaks, and come right back. Very weird. Then, on about the 4th day, I see that there are cigarette burns and buds outside my window, directly below it. I think a little of it and go home on the weekend as I usually do. That Saturday, my roommate calls me frantically, telling me that she saw the dude and to be careful when I come back. And then begins the story of what happened that day, the day I was wrong. Apparently, he came in, and my roommate heard scuffling in my room. She didn't know it wasn't me, and thought it was weird, as I'm usually gone Friday evening and Sunday evening, usually through. The door was wide open, too. She looked in and saw him searching madly in the room. Before she could run, they locked eyes, and then she ran and hid in the basement. He came barreling straight for her and followed her as if he knew the house, which in hindsight let us realize how he'd studied our apartment too. He was too freaked out at her locking the door, and she said that she heard him do something before just bolting. She said he looked methodically, like he was searching for something very specific. I left my lamp on, and my roommate made sure I stayed on while I was gone, so there was no way he could thought no one was in my room. She also had a habit to walk in my room to check if someone was there, though, as we both had a bad feeling about our smoking stalker. I also pulled the shades, but you can still see the light in the room to ward off the dude, just a precaution, so he couldn't peek in and realize I was gone for the weekend. So here goes the story like this. Apparently, that same stalker guy broke in earlier Saturday morning, come through my window, knocked over my lamp, which was right in front of it, broke his dirty self into my room, which was scurrying the house looking for someone, if not something. He never took anything, and the police, of course, were called. But I always wondered what would have happened if I had been at home, in my room. I also suspect he liked our guest and wanted to do something to her, as she had seen him through the most, but who knows. The lamp was still broken on the floor when I came back, and the monkey wrench he had used to get onto my floor was still there, but the police took it as evidence. So I got the pleasure of seeing its tracks imaged on my carpet floor. My window was a good 5 feet off the ground, too. His dirty shoes were on the outside wall below my window, so he really wanted to get in, as he basically hauled himself in. And from the shoe prints in my room, it was clear he had had a fun time in there. The police never found him. Needless to say, I was too scared to stay there for that week, and the police had a patrol for us to keep us safe. But I was so scared he'd come back to finish what he started. So, let's not meet.
I work in retail and I had a very unique name. This happened a few years ago, and when I first started, I worked at a 24-hour convenience store, and at this point I was working the graveyard shift. I'm used to all types of unsettled folks, but this one guy who left me particularly unsettled. It was about 3 a.m., and unfortunately I was working alone because my coworker decided to call out last minute. The store was dead, and I was packed out a delivery when he walked in. He was a short, stocky black guy, a little older than me, probably late 20s and early 30s. I looked up from my task at hand and greeted him with a friendly smile, and asked him if he needed help with anything. He grinned and looked up and down. His brown eyes darkened with lust. "Do you sell condoms?" I nodded and pointed him to the health and beauty section, and proceeded to make my way to the cash register to cash them out. He browses for a little, and typically he picked up a box of Magnums, and those herbal sexual supplement pills. "So how are you tonight?" he inquired. I told him I was working hard and anxious to go home. His eyes traveled up and down my body, his eyes settling on my name tag, which is pinned on just beneath my left breast. I felt a little uncomfortable. I've never been comfortable with people staring at me, and his eyes lingered longer than necessary. He asked me how to pronounce my name, and I tell him. He says it's nice, politely. I say thank you, and he begins to scan the bag and items, trying to avoid eye contact. He asked if I have a boyfriend. Truthfully, I say yes. He comments that he must be a lucky man and wishes he could be in his shoes. Again, I smile uncomfortably, and as we're supposed to do, ask if he needs anything else. "Not unless I can have you," he drawled lazily. Now I'm getting annoyed. I ignore his comment and proceed to tell him his total. He swipes his card. I complete the transaction and tell him to have a good night. He thanks me and then asks if I'm working by myself. "No, my co-worker's downstairs doing some paperwork." I lied. Now he grins. "No, he isn't. I've been watching you since 12. I haven't seen a single person here in all this time. Are you afraid?" I frowned. "You've been watching me? That's not creepy at all." I tell him he needs to leave if he's done shopping. I had work to complete. Once again, he laughs at me. I thought he was going to argue, but a couple of drunk guys walk and he leaves. Later that night, I check my Facebook and I have a friend request. Guess who it was from? Again, I have a unique name. Only 2 people on Facebook has it. I block and delete the friend request. Next morning, as I am going to the subway station, the wanted poster on the token booth catches my eye. The face is familiar. It was the creep from my store, wanted for sexual assault and battery on 96th Street. The incident happened more than a month ago. Our, I heard Lee told my manager, who called the police to give him our tip. I don't know if he was ever caught, but please, let's not meet outside my store. And I still don't feel comfortable with name tags.
My dad was out for a job interview, so me and my sister had the place to ourselves for about 2 hours. I watched TV downstairs and went outside, and when I went back in, I left the door unlocked for my dad, since it was getting close to the time he said he'd be home. I went upstairs and hung out with my sister for a while. Then I heard the door open, and rummaging through her cabinets as well. I just assumed that my dad, since he always likes to check everything is in place before relaxing. I also heard my dad's door open and close, open slowly, a few times. I was talking to my sister when the phone rang. To my surprise, it was my dad on the other end. He told me that he was going to be getting home late, and that we needed to make our own dinners. It felt like my heart fell to my feet as he said. I realized that it wasn't my dad that entered the home. I heard Lee rush downstairs to see if everything was okay. Several things were gone, and the front door was wide open. I heard what sounded like breathing coming from the downstairs bathroom. I choked the urge to yell as I saw a hand wrap around the door and a face peer around my corner. As soon as the guy saw me, he ran like hell out of there. I chased after him, but he was long gone. On the floor in the bathroom, I found, of all the things, a box cutter knife. I'm not sure what his intentions were with the weapon, but they weren't good, if anything. I called the police soon after, but they could never find him. My dad always calls me when he's heading home to make sure I know he's still gone. To home intruder, let's never meet in a lifetime.